violence that's emerging in these spaces is really a response to underlying social, economic, and political conditions, and that if those dynamics aren't addressed through meaningful engagement with populations that perceive themselves to be marginalized or experiencing inequality politically, socially, or economically, then we're going to see violence recur in various forms, whether in this contemporary form of violent conflict or in another.
So it places back these insurgencies within their national context, and by doing so it forces us to look at what the state has done in the past, and so it's a way to sort of pay more attention to the historical elements that have contributed to the marginalization of some groups within these countries.
Trying to understand the local implications of Islam within these conflicts is also very important. The idea of the kind of Al-Qaeda Islamic terrorism lens is not effective, and I'm glad to see that this research is trying to understand what specific narratives and forms and uses of Islam are doing and how they relate to insurgency.
We see that often the violence in these places is understood through a prism of transnational terrorism, of linkages between armed groups operating in different parts of North Africa and the Middle East. Our hope is that this rapid response briefing will provide a summary of some of the more detailed socioeconomic and local level political concerns and trends in these places that are contributing to patterns of violence that we have seen.
It offers very good insights into the whole, as the title says, the links between, the ties between Al-Shabaab and sort of the history of violence in Kenya. And it makes that clear. And this is what has been missing in the current narrative. So Al-Shabaab violence is not an isolated violence. It's very much linked with the history of violence in Kenya, particularly in its margins.
Security responses need to be accountable and need to be carried out in a way that doesn't further alienate or marginalize populations and doesn't confirm for them some of the perceived marginality. So security responses that have been heavy-handed, that may not have been accountable and have been accompanied by human rights abuses, for instance, risk very much exacerbating a situation.
The main conclusion I would take from this work is that you have to look at the history of violence in marginal areas, in insurgent areas like the north of Mali, which is an extremely remote place. You have to look at what's happened in these places, and you'll find layer upon layer of violence.